Am I the a-hole for telling my mom I won't be the good kid for free anymore? First off, this is one of my first posts, so please forgive me for any mistakes. So, some context. My mother has two children, me, 24F, and my younger sister, 15F. She and my dad were never together, but when she got pregnant with my sister all those years ago, she married my stepfather. My stepfather is much, much older and was pretty wealthy at the time. When my mother decided to marry my stepdad, she packed me up and moved us 4 hours away from my grandparents, my primary caregivers since I was born, and my dad. I won't get too far into what my life was like after I moved in, but it is worth mentioning that I suffer from diagnosed PTSD and severe anxiety from my years of living with them. My sister never had a chance. From the start, she's been spoiled. Not just spoiled, spoiled rotten. As the years went on, I tried to tell my mother and stepdad that she would not just grow out of it, like they said she would. I've had friends compare her to Veruca from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. She screams, throws things, hits people, threatens to lie to CPS, calls our mother a whore, fat cow, and depressed loser, and calls her father an old man. For heaven's sake, she called her 95-year-old grandmother an old witch and stomped on our other grandmother's foot. She is out of control. What is done about this? Well, their idea of discipline is nothing. Her dad is considerably older and doesn't want to make her hate him for the short amount of time he has left with her. So he leaves the discipline to our mother, who is mentally very unstable and crumbles easily. Because my sister is so outwardly difficult, I've always been revered as the good child. To be clear, me being the good child included my silence and compliance. I had to be responsible and mature for my age because my stepdad and mother were not. Because of this, and some guilt, my mother and stepfather have always overly relied on me. I'm the one who placates, who mediates, who tried to parent their kid but was constantly undermined. It caused me to have several severe relationship issues as an adult. After high school, I moved out and went to college. I attended therapy and started to learn that my people-pleasing from living with them was crippling me. So I've slowly started stopping. The last key component to the context is that my mom and stepdad do not support me. Even when I lived with them in high school, every dime for lunch money or new clothes came from my grandparents. Even my car was given to me by my grandparents at 18. They've paid for one semester of my junior college, roughly $2,500, and to their credit, they did pay for my braces when I was 10. However, this pales in comparison to the $10,000 per semester they spend on her private school tuition, her $1,000 monthly allowance they put on her debit card, her new Porsche, which she can't even drive yet, plus so much more. My mother even asked me to give up my birthday last year to attend my sister's cheer nationals in Florida, which I did to be a good sister, but there was no such thing for me when I was in high school. For the record, I understand most of this money is my wealthy stepdad's. I am not delusional to the fact that I am not his kid and therefore shouldn't expect support from him. However, they expect me to support them. Now I'm at a breaking point. I've always relented and gone to my mother's house on Christmas Eve to wake up and open gifts on Christmas morning because it's important to her, but I don't believe I'm there because she wants me to be. I think it's mostly so I can mediate. My sister always makes a spectacle of Christmas Eve. Last year, our mother put $4,000 worth of gifts under the tree for her and me combined, and my sister was not happy with a single gift that she asked for. I'm talking screaming, throwing gifts in the trash, biting, scratching. All at 14 years old. Christmas Day has always ended in screaming and tears. I hate Christmas because of this. This year, I wanted to spend it with my grandparents and see my dad over the holiday. This was not taken well. I was told by my grandmother that I'm the only thing keeping my mom sane. It was implied that a good kid would want to spend time with her family and sister on Christmas. I told her that my younger sister has gotten so much more than me: money, opportunities, support, etc., and she gets to be horrible to our mother and get rewarded for it. Why should I be the good kid if I'm not getting anything in return? Why should I spend a holiday with family that makes it horrible over my grandparents, who are actually supporting me? My grandma said that this was a horrible thing to say. She begged me not to say this to my mother and to just put up with it. This is not how my grandparents raised me to be or think, but it's not so much about the money as it is the blatant use of me. Some part of me feels greedy and spoiled for being upset over the difference in support, but somehow it still just feels so wrong to keep giving in to them. What is keeping me at bay is that my grandparents have never steered me wrong, but I sometimes wonder if what was done to me gets forgotten because my mother is mentally ill and does suffer, and my sister is like this because it's all she's ever known. I can't help but feel like I can't relent on this one, that my boundaries are being trampled. So, am I the a-hole for wanting to say this to my mother? If yes, what else do I do? Thank you in advance for reading. Update 1. I took a lot of advice from my original post. I just felt like I should update things on here and get some advice in turn. Christmas went unexpectedly well, but not for the reasons one would think. I ended up not saying anything harsh to my mother. I stayed with my grandparents as long as I could, then made the 3-hour drive up to my mother and stepdad's house. My stepdad's family has always been so kind and treated me like family, so I enjoyed going over there and spending time with them. My mother and stepdad left the get-together early on Christmas Eve. Come to find out, my sister had opened all of her gifts earlier that day before I got there. When she realized she didn't get everything she wanted, she took a couple of my presents and threw them in the pool. Luckily, I had asked for a lot of cat toys for my cats, and those were the things she threw in, so they were fine after they dried. I spent the night with my mother and stepdad while my sister stayed with her aunt and cousins, and I opened my presents peacefully on Christmas morning before heading to see my dad. All things considered, it was a nice holiday compared to the others we've had. What came after was, unfortunately, not an improvement. It seems like my sister's behavior is on a steady decline. For some context, last year my sister messaged me with a picture of herself with a fat lip, saying our mom hurt her. I was so angry that I called her aunt to pick her up and told her she was not allowed to go back, and that if they had a problem with it, I would call the cops. When talking to my mother afterward, she had a severe black eye where my sister had attacked her. I didn't care who started it. I just thought it never should have had to escalate to that. She spent the summer with her aunt, CPS investigated and found no abuse in the home, and both my mom and sister went to therapy. My sister wanted to go back to her parents before school started. Now, in the present, my sister has learned that she can abuse our mom and get away with it. I have gotten 3 phone calls where I've seen my mom with black eyes, scratches, or other marks from my sister. I've witnessed her snatch a wig off my mother's head and rip her hair out. My mother lacks confidence because her husband insults her on a daily basis, and my sister will destroy anything that could bring her confidence. I've witnessed her pour Starbucks into my mom's makeup bag, cut her wig, and more. She's thrown glass mugs at my mother too. The last phone call I got from my mother was after she ended up with another black eye. She said that my stepdad tried to spank my sister, but she just rolled her eyes. Apparently, he took her phone away too, but only for 2 hours. My stepdad does not stand up for my mother, and she has no power or money to enforce over my sister's head. My sister says they can't do anything either, or she'll call CPS on them. When my mother called me this last time, I basically just shrugged and told her I didn't know what else to tell her. Send her to boot camp, a mission trip, turn off her phone, something. But these are all things I've said before. I've toyed with the idea of getting the law involved, but how seriously do they take child-to-parent abuse? Would I be the a-hole if I did that? Any advice is appreciated, and thanks for reading my vent post. Edit: going no contact is almost impossible. I owe my entire life to my grandparents, and if I go no contact with my mom and stepdad, the burden falls onto my grandmother, who I'm sure my mom would hound to get to me. I'm taking steps to go low contact, though. Edit 2: I just found out my sister's aunt, my stepdad's sister, was told about the abuse by my mom. My aunt would like to hold a meeting and intervention with the whole family, me and the parents included. I will not be part of the disciplining process, but I absolutely will be giving my 2 cents on everything. Come to find out, it's my aunt paying for my sister's very expensive school, and she's now threatening to pull her from that school if she does not agree to a 6-week outpatient anger management program. My sister is incredibly snobby and has said before that she'd rather die than go to public school. She also loves her cheerleading team. I will keep updating. Final update: hi, I'm hoping this is the best sub for this question because the mental health one has a character limit, and I feel the details are important. So, for some background, my mom and I have had a tumultuous relationship my entire life. My grandparents primarily raised me, but my mom and dad were always around. At around 10, my mom married my stepdad after getting pregnant with my half-sister, and we moved to a big city. Ages 10 to 18 were the worst years of my life, and I suffer from CPTSD because of them. Alcoholism and drugs played a huge role. I have another post from several years back talking about my sister and how awful she was. Since then, my stepdad's family has stepped in, and she's been living with them. My mom and stepdad still see my sister almost every day, by her choice. The past couple of years have been tentatively better since my sister moved out and they took my mom to a psychiatrist. They diagnosed her with some things, I'm not sure what, and told her she had significant gray matter in her brain. She got on medical marijuana and sleeps most of the time when she's at home. She has severe ups and downs but overall seems less aggressive than when I was younger. There were a couple of episodes when I was around 16 where she took Ambien, prescribed, and had awful hallucinations. The handful of times I witnessed it were honestly horrifying. My sister was young at the time, and my stepdad never wanted to deal with it, so he'd just go to bed, while my sister slept in with the two of them. My mom would talk about clowns dancing on the ceiling. She tried to bust out our windows to let the little people in, and the last time I heard her whispering something about a knife and saying, no, she couldn't do that. That last time, I took my sister upstairs and locked the door to my room, after which my mom tried to bust the door down and scratched at it until 4 to 5 a.m. She apologized that day and took me out of school so I could rest, but she didn't remember any of it. Fast forward to now, our relationship has built back up over the last couple of years. My sister is headed off to college, and I think I've seen how her dad is just as big a culprit in her upbringing as our mom. My mom called me last night, and we had a very normal, nice conversation for 10 minutes, but she was happy. I actually told my boyfriend, that's the happiest I've ever seen my mom when she's called me, because usually she's upset, crying, or high on marijuana. Then today, Monday, around noon while I was at work, she called me. I didn't answer, and she texted me, answer, it's important, so I called her back. She tells me, well, this is really weird, and I'm still processing all of this, but your uncle has brain cancer, and they've given him 9 months to live, and your grandma has the same thing. So I asked, Grandma also has brain cancer? And she said, well, hers is because she had an ear infection as a child, or something along those lines. She was incredibly detailed, saying how her siblings sat her down and she was the last to know. They told Grandma, but she had already forgotten it. They told my uncle's kids, and that her sister wanted to dig into her medical history, but Grandma said no, so they fought about it and she cried. Obviously, I'm summarizing, but I fully believed her. I thought she was embellishing, but I believed the bad news. I told her I was going to call my aunt, and she said, yes, do that, because I'm also confused, and she sounded like she was about to cry. Before that, she sounded like she was in shock, with very little emotion. So I called my aunt, and she told me nobody on their side of the family had talked to my mom in a month and that it was all a lie. Obviously, even though I called to confirm it, my thoughts went wild because my deepest, darkest fear, that my grandmother wouldn't be alive to see me get married or have kids, had suddenly been made to feel real. I was sobbing in a phone booth in the middle of an open office at my job. I called my stepdad. He had left her in the house to go out and do business, and through him and his sister, I got some details. She had a similar episode a month prior when my sister graduated high school that lasted around a week. My stepdad said that at one point he walked out and found his gun had been retrieved from its hiding place and was lying in the living room. He also said she turned the car on in the garage and left it running all night, so the garage filled with carbon monoxide. He said she has no recollection of any of these things. She has threatened suicide before but has been very performative about it, for example, saying she was going to do it, taking a bunch of pills in front of us, and then spitting them out behind a lamp. So obviously I'm very alarmed. I insisted she go to a hospital, and he said the family would handle it. He and his sister say he had started managing my mom's medication. His sister is a psychologist, and she supposedly figured out the last episode was from medication overuse or underuse, but he must have slipped because she had a month of being good. I could say so many things, but my stepdad has no backbone when it comes to these sorts of situations. He has no spine with his daughter and no spine when it comes to his wife. He's just coasting by. My mom has had multiple interventions during my lifetime, the latest leading her to use medical marijuana instead of buying prescription pills off the street. She has a long history of stealing medication, using a 30-day supply in 1 or 2 weeks, and then being completely off her rocker. I'm truly at a loss. I want to help her, but I know help might not be something I can give. She becomes aggressive when it comes to seeing doctors or when she thinks we're going to commit her. I don't know what legal options I have. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. I plan on talking to her when she comes out of this episode and explaining how awful it was to be told something like that, especially in the middle of my workday. I want to believe she'll feel bad and try to get well again, but my sister and I haven't been enough for her to change our entire lives, so why would she start now? Another tidbit, my aunt mentioned this might be for attention. While I don't believe it is purely for attention because of the level of detail she described, she used to get drunk and tell me she was dying of cancer when I was in middle school. She's well known for making up atrocious lies. I like to believe that if she's not drunk, she doesn't do it, but I could be proven wrong. Also, my mom and dad have rekindled a friendship over the last year or so. I spoke to him, and he mentioned that he would talk to her and be the bad guy and tell her what she doesn't want to hear if I didn't do it. She might listen to him, too. Thanks in advance for any advice. It's very appreciated.